What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mentor's
Okay.
Corner. I hope you enjoyed this video. Now, today I have a new video for you guys. Today we're gonna start a new series on extra history. Go check the channel, amazing channel, on the history of coffee. I know normally I do a lot of Napoleon. That's what my channel is known for now. But I want to diversify. I want to diversify my channel, and so I want to do just history on anything and everything. And so today we're gonna watch this video on the history of coffee. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. I know nothing about this, uh, literally nothing, truly. So let's start some history.
According to legend, it started over 1,000 years ago with some goats. An Ethiopian goat herder burst into a monastery. He tells the monks that his name is Kaldi and that he's discovered something incredible: magic berries. See, he'd gone and looked for his goats, right? But found them munching on red berries from an unfamiliar bush, and then, get this, the goats were dancing, just leaping around full of energy. And then, curious, he tried the berries himself, of course, and just like the goats, he'd been unable to sleep that night, and he wanted to share this discovery with everyone as soon as he possibly could. Frightened by his story, and probably his shaky, overcaffeinated manner, the monks
burned
declared
him
these
alive.
magic berries the work of Satan
Oh,
and
there we go.
cast them into the fire. But as the berries burn away, roasting the beans inside, their aroma is so delicious, the abbot yells that nothing made by the devil could possibly smell so sweet. They rake the beans out of the fire and cover them in hot water to preserve them. But then the liquid is so alluring, they can't help but take the tiniest taste. And lo, a worldwide addiction is born.
Dude. It's an old ass story. When the more crazy it is, the more you give it, it happened 1,000 years ago.
Thanks so much to humankind for helping us keep this history brewing. Mocha, Java, Joe, Brew, Cuppa, Tar, Jitter Juice, Rocket Fuel, or maybe most aptly, my blood type. Call it what you want, we love coffee. Love it so much, in fact, that not only is it one of the world's most traded commodities, but literally, and I'm not kidding here, right as I sat down to read this script, my body instantly told me that I should get up and walk to my local coffee shop before I started, thus completing the circle of addiction before we
Yeah,
even
you
begin.
might be addicted.
This
man.
latte's good. From its obscure origin in Ethiopia, coffee's conquered the planet. And in the next 2 episodes, we're going to take you on a whirlwind tour of its rise and triumph. So grab your own double espresso and get ready for a highly caffeinated retelling of how the world's favorite psychoactive drug conquered the globe. Because while some might say that Kaldi's dancing goat story belongs in our other show, hi other me, there actually might be some truth to this legend. Coffee is native to Ethiopia, and in an area where goat herding was a major part of agriculture, it wasn't unusual to let the animals, who basically would eat anything, try out unfamiliar plants to see if they were edible.
Oh, so
Though that's where the truth
the story was basically a legend, you know.
probably ends. Because while in the legend, monks go straight to roasting and drinking coffee, in reality, people spent a while eating it. First,
Okay.
the berries surrounding the bean, then blocks of roasted and ground beans held together with binding agents as sort of an energy bar. Other legends tell of Muslim holy men bringing coffee from Ethiopia to Mecca, including one that was supposedly made a saint in thanks. But historically speaking, all we know is that by the end of the 16th century, the drink had spread all across the Middle East, North Africa, and the Ottoman Empire.
I thought that coffee was coming from South America. Well, maybe that's where it's coming in the modern world. But I didn't know it originated in Ethiopia and then propagated itself through the Middle East. That's very interesting, actually.
Of course, every new craze needs early adopters, and in coffee's case, it was the Sufi mystics, many of whom were merchants with trade links to Ethiopia. Famous for their late-night rituals, spent praying, whirling, and reciting the name of God, the Sufis quickly discovered that the bitter drink helped keep them energized during their devotions, and probably helped them get over their sluggishness before work the next morning. But coffee quickly moved out of being a niche drink favored by one religious sect, because it was ideally suited to become a staple of the Islamic world. In a region where alcohol was illegal, coffee served as an alternative drink for socializing and enjoyment. Plus,
Yeah,
in a culture
makes
that
sense.
prized academic learning, coffee became a favorite fuel of late-night study sessions. But it was also the method of coffee drinking that made it popular, because coffee was not, in general, a drink made in the home.
This is just my my knowledge on the matter, but isn't tea much more popular in Turkey than coffee is? Was there a schism where coffee was banned by the emperor and then it sort of fell out of favor? But I'm much more sure that tea is much more popular in Turkey than coffee is right now. I've never been to Turkey. This is just my knowledge on
Oh,
the matter.
but rather brewed and consumed at coffee houses. Due to the time needed in the preparation of the coffee, and the fact that the bitter liquid was served piping hot and could not be drunk quickly, coffee houses became a rare secular public space for conversations, business, and social life. Because at the coffee house, there was no rank or distinction, and people of all classes, trades, and ethnic groups talked freely about the
So
issues of
it
the
was
day.
basically a
And
forum.
amazingly, that neutral space of the coffee house is still what you'll find going into a cafe nearly anywhere in the world today. And also, like today, many coffee houses of the time tended to grow up around universities. Yet, as you'd expect, not
What the
every
fuck?
ruler was crazy about how this new stimulant was sweeping their previously caffeine free cities. Some rejected it on religious grounds, get it? Claiming that it was a way of consuming charcoal, which was forbidden in the Quran, while other religious leaders preached against it, saying it clearly had intoxicating physical effects
I just
and
got the
therefore should
joke.
be banned. In fact, in 1511, Khair Beg, the governor of Mecca, put coffee on trial. Oh,
What
and I
the
mean that literally. He propped a jar of coffee up in a chair and had his council of religious leaders lay out the evidence that it was an intoxicant, encouraged idleness,
You know what? As much as I don't want to live in the 16th century because of there's no toilet paper and disease and wars everywhere, you can't see stuff like this in the modern world. Just crazy stuff happening.
and caused people to spend time in gossipy coffee
Actually,
houses
never
filled
mind.
with
You
loose
can.
talk and scandalous pursuits, like board games. They
Ooh.
banned the drink.
Yeah.
But Islamic laws governing intoxicants had all been written about alcohol. And those arguments kind of fell apart when pro coffee religious figures pointed out that coffee heightened the senses rather than dulled them, and kept the drinker in control of their moral faculties. After all, if everything that had a physical effect was banned, that would include spicy food as well. So, yeah. Within months, a higher court in Cairo overturned the ruling. Truthfully, objections to coffee were often less about the drink itself and more about the coffeehouse culture that fostered political discussion, the spread of non-orthodox ideas, and the occasional political coup. In fact, Ottoman Sultan Murad IV, who himself had come to the throne as a result of a coffeehouse plot, was reported to personally wander the streets of Istanbul in disguise with a massive sword, decapitating anyone he found sipping the brew. Of course, his successor was more permissive. For a first offense, you got a little cudgeling, and then repeat offenders, of course, were sewn into a sack and thrown into the Bosporus. You know, logical punishments.
Yeah. Jesus
This
Christ.
debate about coffee would continue
That's
for
hilarious.
decades, with psych-
The Sultan was walking around the city with a fucking sword, no bodyguards, just walking around. You're just sipping coffee. You're like, oof, what a tough day. Some guy just comes out of nowhere, decapitates you.
of anti-coffee rulers banning it throughout the 16th and early 17th centuries, but the popularity of the beverage always outliving the sultans who repressed it. But you know, there were also commercial reasons for allowing the drink, because the Muslim world had found a new use for coffee: selling it to Europe. Now, exactly when and how coffee first came to Europe is too obscure to determine. Turkish slaves and prisoners of war were observed brewing it in the Christian camp during the Siege of Malta in 1565. And by the next decade, Venetian merchants were buying it in the port of Mocha, which is where that name comes from, and then bringing it into Italy as a drink
Mocha comes from Yemen?
for the
Wow.
wealthy.
I didn't
But
know
as
that.
ever, the dark concoction brought controversy with it. Legends
course.
claim that several bishops
Clement the
requested that
Seventh.
Pope Clement VIII ban the drink
The
as
Eighth.
satanic and non-Christian. But when
course.
Clement tried it himself, he declared, "Why, this Satan's drink is so delicious. It would be a pity to let the infidels have
Worse.
exclusive use of it." Now,
Oops,
did
oops,
that
oops, oops,
happen?
oops, sorry.
Probably not. But it does show how divisive coffee continued to be. And not only because of its association with the Islamic world. Doctors, probably spurred on or hired by tavern owners who didn't want the competition of coffee houses, wrote about coffee's supposedly dire health effects. One especially notable attack was the Women's Petition Against Coffee, published in England in 16.
We're so corruptible, man. The guy just drank the coffee, like, and people believed it was a Satan's drink. And the more he drank it, he's like, this is too delicious to be Satan's drink. we're so easily, if something is comfortable, lucrative, delicious, we'll be able to just, even if it's stadiums work, whatever, man.
1974, it offered a full six
As long as it
pages
makes
of
us feel
body
better.
innuendo about coffee's supposed effects on men's performance. The excessive use of that newfangled, abominable heathen liquor called coffee, it said, has so eunuched our husbands that they are become as unfruitful as those deserts whence the unhappy berry is said to be brought. Harf. But the backlash was
Harum.
only a symptom of coffee's success, because not only did the drink come from the Muslim world, the culture of the coffee house did as well. Coffee houses swept Europe, but became particularly ubiquitous in London, where by the 1680s they served as a mixture of public meeting place, business office, and news outlet for the rising intelligentsia. If you wanted to find
Whoa.
someone, you didn't ask where they lived, but which coffee house they frequented. You could even drop them a letter there as if it was a post office, and they were always the best places to hear news and rumors. Whether
I'm sorry I'm pausing this, but it's very interesting how one small change in history can have incredible repercussions because of the discovery of coffee, because of its propagation. Look how, imagine how many rebellions have been planned and how many events in history have been uh, not only planned but executed and accomplished because of this one thing. Coffee was discovered. There were coffee houses where people. I mean, listen. If you were gonna plant something, maybe you would have. It would have still happened, but you would have planned it in in your house, for example. But you never
they
know.
be
Maybe
economic,
you wouldn't
literary,
have met
or
the
political.
person, or
And that was because coffee houses had specialty clientele. For instance, the Grecian Coffee House was the headquarters of the Royal Society, London's foremost scientific organization. And after stockbrokers were banned from the Royal Exchange, they coalesced around Jonathan's Coffee House, unofficially making it the first London Stock Exchange.
what?
Then there was Lloyd's Coffee House, which was popular with maritime traders and those who sold insurance to them, a clientele who eventually formed a society that would become Lloyd's of London, the most famous insurance market in the world. So yeah, coffee, or rather coffee culture, was helping to revolutionize international trade and commerce. A
That's insane.
network that, ironically, would then help coffee spread around the world and revolutionize so much more than trade. So grab a cup with us next time, as coffee sobers up a perpetually drunken Europe, fuels the American Civil War, conquers the globe, and meets its best friends, milk and sugar. But of course, coffee's not the only thing that shaped our past. All of history is a web of cultures influencing each other in countless different ways, which is precisely the type of microcosm that humankind, a new forex.
It's insane how this one, as you said, the subculture of coffee influenced so many events in history. Are you kidding me? The Royal Society was created because people would like to congregate in a coffee house. In so many other societies, the Royal Exchange, the stockbrokers would congregate in a special coffee shop, and they would create the first stock market. And then there was the Lloyd's, the what's called the maritime insurers. I never heard of Lloyd's, to be honest. I think I've heard about it, but not really. I don't know if it's that popular, but apparently it is. But it's so interesting. I never knew anything about this, and it's so revealing how it's insane. That's why I love history. History is so interconnected, and some events in history happen. If they didn't happen, the whole of humankind would be, pun not intended, would be so different. Someone dies 500 years ago that shouldn't have died. Maybe you name it. Maybe there would have been a completely different dynasty on the English throne, or there wouldn't have been a war in the First World War. Or it's insane. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. You learned as much as I did. This was a very informative video. When I would never look at coffee the same. I, it just it's just insane. Um, and I didn't know it originated from Ethiopia. That's very interesting. Anywho, I hope I'll see you guys next time, and come back, like,